Well, thanks for coming. As we mentioned there, when I took over as governor, even though there was a lot of this block grant money that had been dispersed to Florida, only 500,000 had been dispersed to the growers, and so we made it a priority. And so we've already dispersed more than 75 million just since taking office, and we obviously have more to do. It's an important industry for our state, and we want to be helpful in any way we can.
Governor, Commissioner Kiker's seat here in Lee County is up. Still waiting for an appointment. Can you give us an update on who or where and when you may appoint someone?
It will be relatively soon. As you know, when we had the session, all that, people do names, but I have to be able to interview them, and we got to do the vetting. So, but it'll be done soon, and we'll certainly let you guys know.
What were some recent takeaways from the blue-green algae task force meeting?
Well, look, I think that it's interesting. In Israel, we were meeting with researchers about blue-green algae. So I think there's a lot of different irons in the fire in terms of finding ways to combat it. We have money in the state budget that I requested that got passed that we'll be able to apply to that. There's private sources of money where they're doing competitions. The Everglades Foundation's doing that. So I think there's really a lot of effort going into it. We just want to make sure that the solutions that we embrace, we're going to put money behind, that they're safe, effective, and that they're going to work. But if you look at some of the infrastructure money we got, both for Everglades and for other water resources, including now $60 million from the federal government for the Tamiami Trail, ultimately having all of those projects done, that's going to do more than anything to relieve the pressure for the discharges. But I'd also say, the Army Corps, I met with the president during the transition. I told them that this was a problem, that they were discharging all this polluted water. And so, he basically said, you need to start working with Florida. So I'll give the Army Corps credit. They have tried to manage the lake with their number one goal being not having to do discharges at the most inopportune times, which is, kind of the hot, rainy season. The lake now is in a place where they feel very good that they may be able to accomplish that. So that's obviously not in my control as governor, but I think it would be great if we could get through a season without having a lot of discharges that aggravate, obviously, and cause this algae, because, we do have a lot of resources now through the legislature. We're going to be doing the projects, but it just, the projects just can't get done in like a day. It takes some time. So we're moving forward as fast as we can.
Well, can you tell us anything more about the autonomous cars?
So what the bill did basically was put a uniform rules in place in Florida, because I think what we didn't want is, one county trying to tax them one way or this or that. So we wanted to say, hey, Florida overall is a welcoming environment for that. There's things with safety like insurance requirements, and I think that's important to make clear. There's also certain provisions just about if you do have an autonomous vehicle and you're a passenger, you can text, you can do things because you're not going to be in control of the vehicle. As you know, I signed a bill to make texting while driving a primary offense. It's bad for safety. Well, if the autonomous vehicles, as that technology develops, if that works well, you could potentially increase safety on the roads. And with autonomous vehicles, when I came in with transportation, I said, one, safety, obviously we want to improve safety. That's paramount. Two, we want to relieve congestion, particularly in some of the hot spots throughout Florida where it's bad. And then three, we want to embrace technology and innovation. Because, if we were having a conversation about transportation 15 years ago, no one would have been talking about Uber or Lyft or ride sharing. That just wasn't something people were thinking about. So we want to embrace the technologies that are emerging, but then as we plan for Florida's future, be nimble enough that as new technologies come on that we're not necessarily anticipating, that we are nimble enough to be able to embrace them.
Governor, can you give an indication of what areas in the budget you're looking to cut, such as local programs or departments?
Well, I don't necessarily view it by department. I think, when you look at the budget, there are certain things that are, generally just pork projects. And so if they don't have merit, we obviously are going to not look favorably on that. There's others that clearly have merit and that, further major policies of mine. So for example, mental health, we have a huge effort going on there. anti-human trafficking, some of the infrastructure, water resources. So I'm going to look at water projects more favorably because I am in a situation where I've said that's important for the state of Florida. And then there's going to be some that are, could potentially go either way.
What areas are those? You mentioned
I don't know.
areas
I don't know that it's
before.
necessarily areas as much as it's just, is there a track record with where you're sending the money? Has there been success? Sometimes when you don't get a lot of money, it actually makes it more likely that it should be vetoed because you can say you have this great idea. If you got $50,000 for it, well, guess what? You're probably not going to be very effective with it. So those things go different ways. Some of the big ones that stand out, obviously, those can be juicy targets if they're not something that's doing well for the state. So we'll sort it all out. One other thing I would just say, though, is I'm very mindful of the fact that the business cycle has not been repealed. I think our economy is in good shape now, but these things change, particularly nationally. There's things beyond my control, certainly, that could happen. And so I want to make sure Florida's prepared for that. So there may be some projects that, I think may have some merit to it, but then I have to weigh, do I want to spend that, or would I rather have that in a surplus that we can use, in the case of a rainy day?
Governor, I wanted to ask you were at Pulse yesterday. I know that many people in that community have asked, and Equality Florida has asked you to put in an executive order that would stop discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. with
Well,
state contracts.
we have no, I need to look at how we do contracts. I can tell you, my office, we do merit only, and I don't need a piece of paper to tell me to do that. It's in my interest to do that, and so, we're open for everybody. I'll look at the contractors and see what the issue of that is, but I would just say, I thought it was important with Pulse. We live in such a fast-paced society. People forget about things when they happen. And, this was 3 years ago, and I thought it was important as governor to go there, as somebody representing the state of Florida, send the message that we have not forgotten. We have not forgotten the damage that did, not just to the LBGT, but also Orlando and Central Florida, and to mourn the loss of life, but also to, express regret that you had a lot of people that had a lot to offer for our state, and we've been robbed of that. And so I have announced that we are approving the money in the budget to start the Pulse Memorial. And that's not going to be enough to complete it, but I think between the state and the locals, we'll be able to do that. And so I'm going to work with those folks in Orlando to get that done, but it needs to get done, and I don't want it to take forever. So that'll be something that we put actual money in for the line item in our budget next year.
Governor, you're considering a standalone election. Are you kicking around that idea just to put ballot issues, or do you want a special election for those?
So here's the issue. The ballot was too long last time. I mean, I had people complaining. I had some of the people who follow politics more than me who were like, they didn't understand some of the amendments. And the thing is, when you're in the booth, obviously people know who they're going to vote for governor or senator. But as you start getting down the judges, the school board, and then the amendments are tacked on at the end, I don't know that that's the best system. Now, I think if you're going to put things on the ballot, to have a standalone election, because then this way, when you're going to vote, you know why you're voting. You're voting on those things. And I think we'd have more time to have honest debates about this. When you have all these races and everything, I think a lot of that just gets cluttered out. And so I think it would be better for that. Now,
Wouldn't that tend to decrease the turnout for the amendments?
well, if people want to turn out, they'll turn out. I mean, I don't know why it wouldn't necessarily do that. If these are salient issues that people really care about, then they have an incentive to come out. But, the flip side is if the only reason someone's turning out is to vote for president or governor, but they're not interested in the amendments, and you do see a drop-off in the votes for the amendments, I don't know that that's that much better. I will say, too, though, the initiative process, I think, has been abused because it's become a cottage industry where you have big, wealthy folks funding mostly out-of-state businesses, California, and these people make money. The more signatures they get, the more they profit. That's not a good system. So I think reforming that was important. But this Constitutional Revision Commission, we need to look at that. They put so many amendments on the ballot, and some of them had multiple things in one amendment. So you literally have to vote on offshore drilling combined with vaping. Well, what if you're somebody who drill baby drill, but you don't like vaping? Or what if you're an environmentalist who likes to vape? It just made no sense to me, and I know it was permitted for them to do that, but I think that the Constitutional Revision Commission has outlived its usefulness. I'd like to see that go away. And so, if we did do that, maybe if you had a standalone, maybe you have 2 or 3 things on the ballot. Well, guess what? Every voter would have the opportunity to really understand that it'd be vetted, and I think we'd get crisper things, because one of the things, we're dealing with the Seminole tribe potentially doing a new compact, and as you know, they did Amendment 3. And the results that I've seen when I've talked to folks is they worded Amendment 3 in such a way that people who didn't want gambling voted for it, but then there were others who did want it, and they thought it would make gambling easier because the people would have control. In fact, it was structured just the opposite, to make it harder. So my thing is like, look, let's get this thing on a better footing. So we'll see. But I think this revision commission, that would require constitutional change. But honestly, I think both sides of the aisle have grown frustrated with it. I don't think it really worked well for us this time.
One last question.
Have you looked at the lottery bill, sir? Are you concerned about whether it's going to cost education to put warning labels on lottery tickets?
I've looked at it. I'm concerned, and we'll have an announcement on that shortly. Thank you.